When you say deals with the West, are you able to elaborate?
I mean, look, it doesn't take a rocket science, right? If you study the previous conflicts between rebel groups, mujahideen, terrorists, if you want to call them that, over the last decade, over the last 20 years, if we're talking about conflicts like Bosnia, Afghanistan, Shishan, you will realize that the way things are moving right now in Syria hasn't happened for any rebel Islamic group in the past 25, 30, maybe even 50 years. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I want to make that very clear. Just because someone is able to negotiate a deal doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. We have to be realists here. But, and this is the caveat, right? What are those concessions that have been made? If the concessions have been made are that I'm not going to implement Islam in this time, for some people, that is a concession that is too great. I am of the opinion it's not realistic to expect that at this moment in time. The reality is the West will not allow an Islamic state to flourish, a real Islamic state. So it doesn't make sense to be overtly Islamic. I mean, people look at Turkey. Turkey has been on a path of Islamatization. You don't read the tabloids in the West, read the broadsheets. One of the things the West is very worried about is the Islamatization of Turkey. And Turkey has been made very secular statements and said, we're a secular country, etc., etc. But you can see the trajectory. When we're looking at the trajectory of Turkey, you can see this country is making an attempt to become more Islamic. Whether you like them, you don't like them, whatever it is. 15 years ago, hijab in universities was banned. Now it's not banned. It's clear. Whereas if we look at Saudi Arabia, it's very clear that Saudi Arabia is becoming less Islamic. That is not rocket science. Guys, wallahi, that is just common sense. 10 years ago, there was no discos going on in Saudi Arabia.
Concerts,
none of this mad Halloween parties and all this crazy stuff was not happening. So these are trends and trajectories. I think that that is more important than statement. We've got to think deeper. We've got to think long term. We can't just be simplistic and say, oh, look, they haven't said it's an Islamic state, so these guys are a bunch of losers.